Welcome to a new cabinet.
To have an effective cabinet, I had to reduce the number.
I chose ministers keeping in mind the importance of following that orientation.
That body that is capable of putting that agenda into implementation.
Today I'm pleased to present the team that will lead that change.
Government by cabinet is back.
One of the first tasks of a Prime Minister is to choose a cabinet. These are the people who will be part of the Prime Minister's inner circle. Cabinet ministers are in charge of the various government departments, making decisions on the policies and services that will affect you. But deciding who sits around the table can be a challenge for any Prime Minister.
It's extremely difficult for a whole lot of reasons.
These are human decisions about, a political party is a big team. And the team succeeds together or it fails together.
My name is David Hurley. I'm a communications and public opinion research consultant, and I was an advisor to both Paul Martin and Kathleen Wynne in minority government situations.
My name's Ian Brodie. I teach political science at the University of Calgary, and for 3 years I was Prime Minister Stephen Harper's Chief of Staff.
It's a very complex exercise to put together a cabinet, and I don't think that premiers or prime ministers actually enjoy it very much.
Choosing a cabinet is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle when you don't have the key of what the puzzle should look like when it's all assembled.
A jigsaw puzzle. This piece, does it fit here? No. Does it fit over here? No. Does it fit there? Yeah, perfect.
Each piece that you move changes another piece of the puzzle. If you've got 30 or 40 ministers trying to move them around, every one that you move affects all of the other pieces as well. And in the final analysis here, you want a government that can actually govern.
So if making a cabinet is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle, what are the pieces?
In energy or in transportation, I have two excellent and strong ministers.
Canadians elected extraordinary members of Parliament from across the country, and I am glad to have been able to highlight a few of them in this cabinet.
Obviously, I've tried my best within the context of a small cabinet to try and represent all these various balances, while at the same time obviously taking account of the skills and experience of individuals.
To take on those tough jobs, Prime Ministers look to qualified individuals who hopefully have some experience in the field in which they'll work.
There's obviously the primary consideration is who'd be good at these jobs. That's the first thing you have to think about.
Most ministers don't have a lot of detailed policy experience in the portfolio that they're filling. They have to be quick studies. That's fine. They have to have general political skills.
You start with finance. Finance is a job that is considered to have a certain core skill set requirement.
Of course, you need to find a lawyer to be Minister of Justice.
What are going to be the key priorities of the government? Are you really going to make a big move on healthcare? Are you really going to make a big move on industrial policy? So that would determine where you put your best bench strength.
I found that there's no way to predict based on past experience how good a minister somebody's going to be in a particular portfolio.
And I pick up the cabinet minister from every part of Canada.
Need to have a cabinet minister from Montreal.
Quebec City, for example, that traditionally always had a cabinet minister. They decided not to elect a member of parliament, so they don't have a minister. That's simple as that.
Most Prime Ministers try to have cabinet ministers from every region of the country in order to represent views from across Canada at the decision-making table.
The usual rule for the last 100 years has been to have one cabinet minister from each province where he has MPs, at least one, more than that in Ontario and Quebec.
Certainly if you had representation from a province and didn't put somebody from that province into the cabinet, that would be unacceptable.
The regional representation piece is the most complicated piece. For some of the bigger provinces like Ontario and Quebec, you have lots of MPs to choose from. If you need 4 or 5 ministers from Ontario, you have some ways to pull from lots of different parts of your Ontario caucus there. For the smaller provinces, I'm thinking of Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where the Liberals elected a much smaller number of MPs. There may not be that much choice about who you put on the front benches as a minister.
A cabinet that looks like Canada.
Our team is talented and diverse, reflecting all of Canada.
Because it's 2015.
More recently, Prime Ministers have also focused on increasing diversity in cabinet, aiming to have a group of ministers that better reflects the makeup of our country.
I'd be very surprised if another government came in and did not have a gender-balanced cabinet. So I think that is now cast in stone.
Once upon a time, diversity in the cabinet meant you had to have a certain number of Catholics and a certain number of Protestants, but there were all white men.
There was considered to be at one time that you couldn't have more than one Jewish person in the cabinet, that kind of thing. now we're not as structured around those things. We don't care about it that way. It's not about excluding people. It's about how do we include people? How do we get more people into this mix?
Part of being an immigrant society is to show that we can bring people into the political process quickly when the demographic composition of the country changes. I think that's important for the viability of our democracy going forward and keeping every part of the country engaged. I think the last couple of governments have been very attentive to that sort of thing, and rightly so.
There are a lot of the same old familiar faces there from my previous administration, and obviously Mr. Mulroney has been very careful in paying off his political debts.
Sometimes the possibility of being appointed to cabinet and the boost in salary and responsibility that comes with it has been used to reward MPs for supporting the Prime Minister and their party.
There's a bit of both carrot and stick here. The carrot and stick is both important in forming your cabinet.
It's used as a number of things. It's used as a lure to recruit star candidates. It's used as a reward to people who were instrumental in getting you to the leadership in the first place by their support for you early or strong or whatever it is. Sometimes it is used as a way to buy peace in the family.
Part of the consideration here will be to send some signals. People who did a particularly good job in their portfolio over the course of the past 3 or 4 years. If they get a step up or a little bit of a boost in profile, that helps send the message to everybody. The Prime Minister's paying attention to what people are doing, how well they're doing their job, how well they're connecting with Canadians.
A large cabinet can be too bulky to be bold, too massive to meet, and too diffuse to direct.
I've assembled a smaller cabinet, one I believe that will be more focused and more effective.
We have got an enormous amount to do. The size of cabinet is effectively that body that is capable of putting that agenda into implementation.
The size of the cabinet has varied depending on circumstances, but cabinets that have ballooned in size can be bigger targets for the opposition parties.
I fear that with 40 people around a cabinet table, that administration might give way to debate.
He has now produced the largest cabinet in the history of Canada.
Cabinets always grow over time because the demands and the political pressures to accommodate people grow.
I think the size of the cabinet really talks about how easy it is to make decisions on particular files.
I think that the upside of a larger cabinet is obviously more representativeness in the cabinet, and the downside is the efficiency of decision making.
Mr. Harper started with a small government because he wanted to be able to make decisions quickly in a minority situation. His cabinet didn't become bigger until he had a majority, and your pace of decision making could slow down.
Whatever a Prime Minister considers when choosing a cabinet, it's a decision that could affect every decision a government makes, so it's not a task that's taken lightly.
Even the most low-profile cabinet minister has real serious authority, real serious influence, and can trip up a cabinet, trip up an entire government in a minority situation that can quickly spin out of hand. So there's no time for training wheels.
If you pick the wrong person in a region, you can mess up your electoral chances in that region. If you pick the wrong person for a policy file and they make a mess of that, you can either have a political problem on your hands or you could have a failure in an area that was really important to you. And if you put a person of bad character in there and they get involved in a scandal, they can literally bring down your government. So they're pretty critical choices.
But in the end, you want a team that can actually carry the government forward. And in a minority government, that's a particular challenge. I don't envy any of the choices he has to make in the next couple of days.
Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.